Listening to WSBU 88.3 The Buzz here at St. Bonaventure up in the Riley Center. And I'm your news director, Cassidey Kavathas. I'm here with my special guest, Joe Manhertz, the director for athletics here at SBU. And now I forgot to ask before we went on air, but is this your first time on air on the airwaves?
No, not necessarily, but first time here at St. Bonaventure.
Well, you already seem like a natural, and we just started, so it should be good. I want to welcome all of our on-air and online listeners. I'll be asking Joe some questions about the Bolder Bonaventure Ignite, Inspire, Invest campaign, which is the largest fundraising campaign in the university's 164-year history. But this time, instead of with Bob Van Winklen, I'll be focusing largely on the athletics pillar. I'm also taking your questions besides my own. Tweet the Buzz's Twitter account at WSBU. Tag the account and use the hashtag Bolder Bonaventure along with your class year when you post your question. So let's hop right into it. Tell me a little bit about how this campaign kind of affects athletics directly.
Well, we really focused on the student-athlete experience, making sure the student-athletes have everything they need to be successful. For example, our weight room currently is about 2,000 square feet. Teams have to separate to work out. The larger teams can't work out together. So as we look to the future of what we could do to make sure that we remain competitive in the Division I landscape, that was primary to what we needed. And so we've got plans for a room that's 5 times the size. So now they can all be together, the team bonding to make sure that they all have that. Having locker rooms for each team made a difference. And so getting here just a little over a year ago, one of the things I realized, we had a Division I athletic department, but sometimes a D3 mentality in terms of teams sharing locker rooms, the size of the weight room, and things of that nature. So really, this plan helps us look forward and really engage student athletes currently and future student athletes to make sure that they know there's a commitment here to athletics that fits the university, not trying to outsize it either.
Mm-hmm. Do you think that this will make SBU more competitive in D1 athletics?
Without question. I think now as I meet and talk to recruits, they're not specifically asking about the size of the weight room, but when I show them the plans of what we're trying to do, they perk up and they understand it's an investment in athletics. And I think, there's always been an arms race in athletics, and it's not something that we're going to try and win here at all, but to be competitive in the A10 is something that we need to do. I think, an aspect of this is a basketball practice facility. This isn't just for basketball, it's for all our sports. But having a practice facility allows us to use the Riley Center in different ways because currently, basketball had the practice in Richter during the inauguration. And so to make sure that we have the space for our teams to compete and just for space for kids to call their own, that's really more important for student athletes.
Yeah. So I heard that this isn't all happening right at once. So can you tell me a little bit about each phase and where we're starting?
Yeah, we really have it in 3 phases. And the first phase is we've got to kind of get some things put together. Phase 1 is really the first part of that is the soccer, lacrosse, multi-purpose field. Right now, if we were to win the A10s, we couldn't host an NCAA tournament because we don't have concession stands and we don't have a place for ticketing, secure area for people to come in and be ticketed. And so that's paramount to what we do, because if we expect to make this investment, we want to win A10s, we want to play in NCAA tournaments and host the NCAA tournament. So that's part of phase 1. Another part is baseball. We've had some alumni come through and support baseball. So really making sure that's a facility that gets a little bit more up to speed, up to code. And then another aspect of phase 1 that I'm really excited about is a practice bubble. You've been here in the wintertime. You understand how cold it is. And so, our teams right now, lacrosse, baseball, spring sports, they're at a disadvantage. Practicing out in that cold, they can't be out there in the cold in January and February and expect to compete against teams that are in the South, even some teams in the West that are just have a better climate than us. So really making sure that there's space for them to compete, and that's climate controlled and makes sense for them. And then lastly, the basketball practice facility, again, helps us make sure that this is going to be in phase 1. And so once we move basketball offices, basketball locker rooms, then we can do phase 2, which then allows us to get every team a locker room. We right now have 2 training rooms. And so I say they're bifurcated, but now in phase 2, we can combine those. So there's one training room. Our sports performance can all be in one place. The nutritionists can be next to the training room, and really have each team with their own locker space and have a place to call their own. So phase 3 is helping address some of the deficiencies in the pool. And then anything else we forgot, we can put into phase 3. So those are 3 phases.
So you mentioned the bubble and how it will really affect Bonaventure athletics, but how necessary is a bubble for this community?
I imagine that thing's going to go 24/7. Just the chance, the weather that we have here in December, January, February. Right now it's our facilities crew is amazing because they clear that field for our kids to be able to participate in practice. But to continue to do that, but also to have a bubble that just we don't have to worry about snow removal is going to be really important. And I can see other schools in the area, not just high schools and other AAU programs and different programs wanting to rent that space. And we're not really looking to make money, but it's something that will help us serve the community a little bit as well.
Yeah, of course. And we spoke a little bit about how basketball had to practice in the Richter because of the inauguration. So why is a basketball practice facility necessary to this campaign?
Well, just that reason alone. I think it's a commitment to basketball. It's a commitment to being in the A10. Of the A10 schools, I believe 9 schools have practice facilities, and probably another 4 have plans to do that. So it's an advantage that we don't want to give away. And so I think that aspect of making sure it fits with what we're trying to do here at the university is important, but really giving them space where they can practice when they need to without interruption.
Yeah. So the campaign covers a lot of bold plans, but there's no seating improvements for the RC. So why has the campaign chose to focus in other areas?
Well, the focus will always be the student athletes. I think it's paramount that as I came up in the business as a student athlete, playing and being a part of an institution that I really cherished, in working in athletics my entire career. We're in the kid business, to make sure that the student athletes have an experience. That's first and foremost. And so that's where our focus is currently. There's nothing that says once we're done with this campaign, we can't do that. But I think primarily the message, if we would have done the Riley Center seats and all that versus the kids, I want to make sure our kids have what they need to be successful, and be more competitive. And I think this is the way to do that and really focus on kids first. And then after that, but keep in mind, I believe, be ready. We'll have a campaign to renovate Riley after this one is done. But, I think the focus really remains on the kids and their experience.
Yeah, of course. So you've been here for a little bit about a year. What have you learned about Bonaventure fans?
Man, the fans are passionate. Yeah, fans are passionate. And I think it's really a credit to this place. It's just the Bonaventure way is just, it's special. Mm-hmm. It's, it's this little engine that could, and I think it's really to harness that to make sure that we support our student athletes and students in a way that makes us continue to get the national promise that we deserve. Wearing your Bonaventure gear in an airport, you hear "Go Bonnies" all the time. And making the move here, I do it again. I double down because it really is a special place to make sure that people know. One of the things that I talk about, I send an email every other week, and one of the things people call it a cult. I don't know about you, but there's not many positive things associated with a cult. But the passion is something that we've got to tap into and make sure that we remain competitive across the board. Men's basketball has been a stalwart for us, and we want to invest there to make sure that we're competitive because it just brings us so much attention. But all our teams across the board, we want to be a little bit more competitive. But we're going to need to tap into that passion to help us.
Mm-hmm. When I spoke with Bob Van Wicklen earlier, we were talking about how everything at Bonaventure is just bold. And that's why the name of this campaign fits it so well. And how in athletics, we're always seen kind of as the underdog. He cited basketball specifically. So how can fans really help push this campaign forward?
talking about it, writing checks to support us in coming and supporting the kids, and really just I think it's any way you can jump in and participate, whether it's time, talent, or treasure. Obviously, we're going to need a lot of treasure with the size of the raise that we're going to have to do. But any way that people can be here, whether it's buying tickets, helping us make this experience better. And I think it's, we talk about the student athlete experience, but the alumni experience, outside of reunion weekend, men's basketball is one of the best things that unites this community. And I think to make sure that we have something that's competitive and remains competitive, that we're all proud of, needs an investment. And I think I tip my hat to those here before me to get it to this point. And I think my job is to continue to help it rise, but in a way that fits Bonaventure. We don't want to be outsized. We don't want to be this monster that controls the university. We want to be a part of it. And at the end of the day, just like in all athletics, we want to be great teammates. We want to work with Bob. We want to work with the president and everyone across boards, professors, to make sure that we're doing what's right and make sure we're serving the kids and make sure they have a great experience.
Yeah. So we're going to move in a little bit to our previously sent in questions or questions we just received. So I got one that when the improvements are made to the athletic complex field, which telecasts for soccer, lacrosse, would they still have those trees behind the team benches as a backdrop?
Yes.
I know that's iconic
Yes.
for Bonaventure Field.
Yes. Right now, the plan is to continue to have those trees there. Absolutely. Really, the plans there are to create a press box and some grandstands for folks, and to fence it in if there ever comes a time where there's an NCAA event, we have to charge for it. So really making sure we have storage. Right now, the press box is a shed that I could have in my backyard. And so we got to make sure that we do something that's befitting of a Division I institution. But yeah, keeping the trees there makes sense. And even when we build the practice facility, it's a 2-story building, and we're encroaching on Swan in that quad there, but it's really going to be 1 story above ground because the first story is going to be underneath the ground. So and I think that'll enhance that area. We're not going to move into the grotto. We're not going to move any of that. I hope it'll enhance that, and more people will get access to that as well. So really making sure that we're keeping this, and again, it fits. Like the bubble won't be in the sight line of the mountains from the library. It'll be over by the tennis center. So I think our architects did a really good job in helping us. Again, you'll hear me say it over and over again, do what fits.
Mm-hmm. Just hearing about these plans, they sound so much like Bonaventure to me. Keeping the trees, keeping the beautiful mountain views, that's something that alumni and students here alike really relate with and know as what fits Bonaventure. So I'm happy to hear that.
Yeah, well, it's listen, I've been at many institutions that people say we want to be like this, we want to be like this. I don't want to be like anyone else. I want to be authentic to who we are, but we have to be better, and we have to be bolder. And really, it's just true to the folks that mean this, that we mean something to, asking for their help, asking for their investment in what we do to help us maintain that competitive balance.
Yeah. So we mentioned a little bit about reconstruction to a pool in phase 3, and we had a question about, are funds raised going towards creating a new pool, or is it just going to be renovations?
Right now, our plans are, we have both. Right now, the plans in the phases that we have, the amount that we raise, is really just kind of renovating what we have, kind of getting that up to code a little bit better than what it is now. There are plans, we do have designs and drawings for a new pool out by where the bubble would be. But right now, we want to affect our 350 student athletes more than 60. And so once we do this raise, then the new pool is something that we could do. In previous, natatoriums and pools were roughly around $10 to $17 million to raise. And to do that for a pool versus $17 million for all our student athletes just didn't make sense to us. And so we're going to address the pool we have. If someone came forward and said, hey, I'll write the check for the pool, we do it. And I think that's part of the planning process and really a master plan. It's really, let's dream the dream and then really focus on what we can do. And so that was part of it, making sure that we had, hey, if money was no object, we could do it all. This is what we do. This is what it costs. And so we did that. then we had to scale it back. And again, it gets to what fit. And so we're putting on some bigger clothes here because we're trying to do some big things. So, but putting an actual new pool in this would have just raised the number to a number that I don't know if we could have gotten right away in the the next couple of years that we need to do that.
So there's always the possibility in the future.
Yes, I live I live by two things. And with my background in fundraising, I've always heard fundraising so hard. It's fundraising so hard. It's never about the money. People always think fundraising is about the money, and I just like to joke that it's about the amount of money. And then followed up with, I heard one athletic director say this summer is like, money's always the answer. Just tell me what the question is. So if you put it in that context, that's where we are.
So we've gotten a few questions about possibly expanding the programs that we already offer. We talked briefly about maybe women's ice hockey, volleyball, those kinds of things. What would you say to that kind of question?
I would love to add as many sports as we could because I think it would enhance the student body. It would help enrollment. But right now, I think the focus has to be on making sure the sports that we have get the investment that they need to be a little bit more competitive. And so let's make what we have here better. And right now we don't have the space to add teams. Locker room space, weight room space. We've added more kids to the existing student athletes. I think over the last 5 years we've added another 100 student athletes. So that means more support staff, more trainers, and more academic support. I'm for adding all of it, but I think right now it would be a little bit outsized. But once we have this renovation, we've set it up where we could do that. We could order, anything. We could golf, a women's golf team, field hockey, volleyball. There's infinite numbers to do that, and that's part of this planning as well. If we do all these things, we have the space because there's going to be some dead space that we can add new locker rooms. And then the trainers and staff. So right now, there's no plans to add anything, but I'm a never say never guy. I'm a find a way type of guy. And again, I get back to it's not about the money, just the amount.
Yes. So when Bob and Wilpin was on earlier, we spoke a little bit about the possibility of our club rugby team possibly getting a locker room or welcome into that space because they are the national champions. Yep. What do you think of that?
It's in the plans. I think again, it's my comment earlier about being a good teammate is really making sure that athletics isn't the beast that just sits over in its own world in his own kingdom or fiefdom and does it all. But I think it's in the plans currently to get the men's and women's rugby team's locker rooms from that standpoint. So I'm all for it. I've had Tui up to the house for dinner. I think what he's done is amazing. And I cherish my friendship with him as well.
That's great. So how does this campaign make St. Bonaventure a viable Division I institution for the future and beyond?
In so many ways, I think it's going to help us in recruiting student athletes at a higher level. I think it'll help the university, other teams get to that national prominence because I think if basketball makes the NCAA tournament, women's basketball makes the NCAA tournament, that's on ESPN. That's talked about. That's Bonaventure. I've heard Bonaventure. I've heard that before. And so just kind of the bandwidth that it'll give us to make sure that we're still talked about kind of this little school in upstate New York. I think we're the second smallest Division I school, and we're competing on the basketball court. And so we just got to compete some other places and then make sure that we continue to be viable in Division I. And I think being in the Atlantic 10, being associated with the Atlantic 10, making sure that we're competitive there is going to help us exponentially from that standpoint. So the value of the Bonaventure brand is enhanced because of athletics. If you think back to the NIT, did you go to the NIT by any chance?
Yes.
And I think the stat was 85% of the tickets sold to the Final Four in the NIT were Bonaventure fans. That's unheard of.
That's bold.
That's unheard of. Exactly. That's bold. And so I think that that answers the question. And it's this place is hungry for winners. And again, we'll support these teams once they're at the top level. And so I think and it's not just support for athletics, it's support for Jandoli, School of Education, the Bonaventure Fund, just really making sure that if we're doing it the right way and making our alumni proud, it's going to mean more support for everyone else, and again, we're going to make sure that we ask for that, not try and take it away. I don't want someone to not give to another part of the institution, give to athletics. I want them to do both.
Oh, great. Do you feel like there's anything that we didn't really touch on that you wanted to highlight about the athletics pillar in the campaign?
I just think, if we can ask for your support in any way, I think it really is, it's about the kids and making sure they have a great experience. It's about Bonaventure taking it to the next level across all of our sports. And it's not just basketball. I want to make sure all the kids feel valued and feel a part of this and feel like they matter. And so I think helping us do that is paramount.
Thank you. So the questions do not end here on WSBU. Any questions that you feel have not been answered can be sent to Bob Van Wicklen. He is the Vice President for Advancement. He's really campaigning and working towards making Bonaventure bolder. I'd like to thank Joe Manhertz for being on here with me. I hope it wasn't too scary.
You know what? I'd come back. You've been very good to me, so thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for listening to WSBU 88.3 The Buzz. And as always, I'm Cassidey Kavathas, your news director, and I'll be back Friday to speak with Dean of the Communications School, Aaron Chimbel, about the Jandoli part of the pillar and what we can do for journalism here at Bonaventure. So thank you for joining, and I hope you have a great day.